If Wall Street would agree to collect their fee in arrears, which is the industry jargon for at the end of the engagement, that would put a lot more money in the client's pocket.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Chris Manske. He's a writer and a financial advisor and a wealth guru and a disruptor, I would say. How you doing, Chris?
Doing real well. I don't know if I like the disruptor side of it, but I've heard that before.
Have you? Okay. I mean, I just you've written a couple books, and I know you've been interviewed by a lot of folks, and I think you got some straight talk about wealth and finances. So, would you say that's fair?
For sure. Yes.
So, tell me a little bit about you, so the listeners can get an idea of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I think why you'd mentioned disruptors because I am on the record now with two books. I'm a traditionally published author where I'm saying that Wall Street's just not doing right by clients in a variety of ways. My first book talked about the way that Wall Street approached crisis, and my second book addresses structurally the way that the client is taken care of in comparison with other industries. And so I'm really glad to have been a leader of a financial firm that's recognized across the nation as one of the larger firms. And, we're always open to a new referral, which is why I'm here talking with you. And thank you for being so gracious to allow me on your show.
Absolutely. So tell me about this. Tell me about Wall Street and what in your opinion, I know you can't do this in 30 seconds, but give me a short synopsis on the big idea here.
Sure. I could give you an example. I think there's a lot of very easy, low hanging fruit that we could make a big difference for the customer if Wall Street would just change the structure. And so, as a quick example, but I mean, there's a lot of these examples, but as a quick one, um, if Wall Street would agree to collect their fee in arrears, which is the industry jargon for at the end of the engagement, that would put a lot more money in the client's pocket. As it is right now, the vast majority of fees they're collected at the beginning of the engagement, whether it's a commission
Mm.
or it's an ongoing fee for a service. There's a lots of ways that Wall Street collects the fee, but my point is that they collect it at the start, which means that the money is gone from the client's coffers all through the engagement when it could have been in there making them interest or doing something good for them. And this is not chump change. This is millions and millions of dollars when you look across the industry. And it's going into Wall Street's pocket when really, I mean, we should do the work first and then charge the client. And that's not the norm.
Wow. I never thought about that. So you're saying that I'll just use a simple fee, like say 1%. You're saying take out the 1% at the end of each quarter or year instead of at the beginning. And then the magic of compound interest, the client would actually have a lot more money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That 1% fee, which is kind of a ubiquitous concept for our industry, it makes a big difference when you take it at the end of the month or the end of the quarter or however they're doing their fee, but instead the norm is they take it at the start, and that's a structural weakness from the client point of view. And I think it sends a strong signal when the institution says we're here to make you money, that's what you're paying us for, and then
Mm.
structurally they charge at the front. That's an action that proves that maybe you can't trust what they're saying. And let's just align all that. Let's take
Mm.
that low hanging fruit. Let's align it so that we can see through their actions that they're aligned with what they're saying that they want to do for the customer.
They're actually putting the customer or the client first versus taking their fee
You
first.
got it. Yeah.
So you started your own firm. Did you start it with that sort of idea in mind?
I really did. Yeah, this was 2012. And on our website, one of the things we try real hard to put front and center is very specific, a list of 20 things that we do structurally different from Wall Street. And that's one of them. But it's not so much a commercial for Manske Wealth Management. It's more a real sincere desire to improve the industry, to make the overall approach to finance be structurally better.
Do you, by chance, I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Do you by chance have a number like in the United States, how much it would change every year?
Yeah, it was, I don't have it memorized, but it was over $500 billion on a 5 year. So I guess if we back that off, it was like $100 billion when you look across like Merrill and Goldman and UBS. That's the kind of interest and impact that taking the fee at the end would have as opposed to at the beginning. And
Oh
and
my
those
gosh.
numbers are actually a few years old, since the book came out a few years ago. But that gives you a sense for the scale. And the problem is that the customer side of it, they just don't really think about it. It's like, oh, the million that I have invested, or the 10 million that I have, or the 10,000 I have invested. Well, that fee, I mean, it's not that much in comparison to the account. There's not going to be that much interest. So individually, it doesn't feel like a problem.
Uh-huh.
But if Wall Street, if they really were transparent and they showed their customers, like, look, this is, Merrill is responsible for over $1 trillion. They're a great institution in a lot of levels, but this is a Wall Street phenomenon that needs to get switched around.
That's amazing. Okay, and then real quick on your book, you wrote a first what's your first book called?
Prepared investor.
Prepared Investor, and then you wrote a second book. You were asked to write a second book, correct?
Yes, yeah, and that was called Outsmart the Money Magicians.
Okay. And so if you want to look for those and learn more about wealth management, these would be great books. Tell me, so you worked for a firm and then you decided to start your own business, correct?
That's right. The reason I've mentioned Merrill a few times is because I had a wonderful start to my career there. I was there for about 12 years and I learned a lot about finance from the halls of one of the storied institutions of Wall Street. Merrill is one of the first major brokerage firms with a really proud history.
That's amazing. Okay. So why did you, I mean, you had this idea. So I'm assuming that's part of it. But what else really motivated you to say, hey, I'm going to strike out on my own? Because you were clearly in a great position there. When did you decide to make the change?
I think that it was a combination of factors, but now as the years go by, you can start to have a myth of why things happened, and so I think
Right.
that the story for why it happened is now that I really would wanted to do it with a bit more control and a bit more emphasis on what I thought was right for the client. But I can remember at the time there was a lot of things that were happening. Bank of America had just bought Merrill Lynch, and so there
Mm.
were changes that were happening, and it's just sometimes there's a window that opens, you meet someone and you realize, wow, with this person's help, I have another opportunity. And so I think that there's, the story and the reality. And then the middle was, me really happy to, start my own firm.
That's cool. I do think companies probably don't think enough about their best and brightest employees when they do a transition or an acquisition. And, I used to work for Comcast and I remember being out on the West Coast and Comcast had a group of people that just bought companies basically. And so one of the companies they bought was Dollar Shave Club, which has nothing to do, obviously, with any of their core businesses. But they saw it as an opportunity. And I said, what after blue sky potential and, the obviously throwing profit and any physical assets, obviously, whatever that is, how do you value a company or what do you look for next? And the thing they said next is we look for the people. And can we keep the people through the transition? Do we have the best and brightest there? Because keeping those people through the transition is what makes the company and really escalates the value. So I think in this case, Miro kind of lost out on that with you, but it happens, right? That's when you lose good people.
I think you're right. Transitions are a time when people they're open to more change. There's this little change. Well, now if I'm doing that, maybe I do this and maybe I do that. And that's something I see just as a financial advisor and a leader of financial advisors when they change jobs, when there's a death in the family or they have to
Mm,
move, they move from one state to another. All of those transitions, those things are times when they're more open to meeting a new financial advisor or
mm.
having changes done to their finances. And I just think that's how we are. That's how we're built.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so then you started this thing in 12 and now it's 26 and you built up a nice team. What was one of your biggest prizes when you started this business?
I think probably the biggest surprise was the depth of capability that is out there from technology.
Oh,
When I was with a big firm, we had proprietary technology, and there wasn't really a whole lot of outside platforms being used, except for maybe Salesforce, which everyone's heard of
mm.
Salesforce.
Yep.
But then, when starting my own firm, that was something I had to really get deep into and make sure that, I understood what was available. And it was very shocking to me how much was available and how deep that support was. And it's only gotten better. I mean, that was almost 15 years ago. And today the capabilities to run a practice and run it's astonishing.
Yeah, that's amazing and something that's absolutely necessary, I'm sure, especially in the financial advisory world. You gotta have stuff tight. What is your perspective on, since we're talking about tech, what's your perspective on AI? I would love to hear your wisdom.
Thanks for asking. So I'm on the record with this. So in the first book, The Prepared Investor, I specifically describe AI as one of the major requirements for people when they're considering investing. You've got to have that paradigm shift of what AI is doing. And what I had described in that book was the loss of jobs being a
Mm,
reality, and that where it's not going to be a similar scenario like, oh, the internet exists now, and so the yellow page isn't needed anymore. I
mm,
think it's a different scenario. It's more, we have a car, so that horse that was pulling the buggy, that horse is not needed anymore. And in this case, I think we are the horse. AI is making us the horse, and we're just not needed. AI can do the work, and that's getting more and more powerful. Another thing I'm on the record for when it comes to AI is I think that authenticity is going to get more and more valuable.
mm.
The genuine article is going to be harder and harder to discern. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. If we were walking down the street and somebody walked up to us with a fancy coat on and they open up the coat and they say, "Hey, buddy, you want to buy a watch?" We would instantly know that's sketchy and we would not accept that because, I mean, it's a fake, it's not real. We're not willing to engage with somebody like that. They're a charlatan. I think that is what we are going to innately feel and know about almost every video or photograph that we see online. And it's already begun. I mean, in January last month, the folks at XAI and Grok, Elon Musk's team, I mean, they had a real catastrophe on their hands with all of the fake pictures that AI made because people
Mm.
just couldn't tell if it was real or not. And I remember reading in the Wall Street Journal, this was maybe 2 weeks ago, where there was a Canadian Olympian. He was arrested by the American FBI in Mexico, and there were some photographs of that were used to try to make a point of, did he surrender himself or did the FBI go into another country and make an arrest, which is not allowed. And these
Mhm.
photographs, at an official level, at the newspaper level, people are like, we don't know if this is real or not. We don't know if we're looking at something that's accurate. We can't tell if, what the reality is. And that's just going to get worse. AI is going to fool us very well.
Yeah, for sure. I when I was 39, I ran this TV station, and even back then, you wanted to have a couple sources before you actually broadcast something. But now there's so much need for speed. Everybody wants to be first, and in being first, many times they're skipping the verification step. So I don't even know how you 3 years from now or 2 years from now are gonna be able to discern truth from deep fakes, whether on the internet or on television. I think it's gonna be really tough, but let me ask you, so from a, because I am aligned with you 100%. I think authenticity is so important, a personal connection is so important, it's gonna become more important. Your personal brand, I believe, is gonna be really important in the world of AI because what else do you have, right? So, but then as far as jobs, I'm thinking high level tech jobs are probably going to diminish and are already severely diminishing, and all the low level jobs, the people working at the Burger Kings and all that. Where else do you see the kind of the unemployment coming from the AI perspective?
I think that any mid-level manager that they aggregate information and provide it to higher ups, all of that is
Uh-huh.
going to disappear. Anything that doesn't require a lot of mobility or digits, so like picking up a box and putting it in a spot, there's going to be robots that can do that. And I mean, there are already restaurants where you can walk in and never see a human being. That already exists.
Yes.
So, even the mobility required with bringing food to a table or making orders and paying for things, I mean, that's all capable of being done by automation. Factory workers, there's just going to be a couple people, you could have a 50,000 square foot warehouse that had, 300 employees in there, and now it's three. And
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing that it's just going to get more and more. It's not going to get slower. It's going to get faster.
Yeah, the acceleration of technology and learning and robotics is only going to increase, and that'll increase the or decrease the number of jobs for those types of things. My nephew is actually a he's an engineer that does the robots for Amazon. So he flies all over the country in the warehouses and makes sure the robots are doing their thing or builds them, et cetera. So yeah, so I think because back in the day, 10 years ago, I was telling people, hey, look, you need an Amazon proof business. And now you need to have an AI proof business. Right?
I agree. I think a wealth manager's point of view is you've got to AI proof your family. Don't if you can save as much as you can because your family's going to need a nest egg because you might not have a way to make money. You might not be able to go out there and easily get a job. You need to have a nest egg that can, kick off some interest and dividends to help make sure that, you're not really in a tough pickle.
Right. And I also think from a financial investing point of view, I'm not going to answer this question. What I'm sure there's companies you would probably not necessarily companies, but types of businesses you would recommend investing in as well.
I think as far as what to invest in, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, everybody's got their idea for how to invest, and whatever you're hearing out there that's good, there's probably pros and cons to all of it. The point is, own it. And the reason is because if you own companies, publicly traded companies, what that means is that as they automate and as they
Mm.
purchase more and more robots and they're not employing people, well, that means you're a part owner of that and you're going to be able to benefit from that. Robots and AI, they're not citizens. They're going to be property. And so,
Mm.
in the old days, it was who has the most land. That's your feudal chief is the person with the most acreage. And I think in the future, it's going to be who has the most robots.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so I have to ask you, I was looking up a little bit of stuff on you, and you've done some crazy stuff in your life. And I believe, so I'm just going to go like you climbed Kilimanjaro, for instance, correct?
Did, yeah.
So tell me about doing that and how that helped you in life and in business.
I really enjoy adventure travel and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or running with the bulls of Pamplona and other things that are a little bit risky. The way it helps me in business is that I have to come into work every day, and my colleagues and I, we try to lower risk for people. And so to even out just a need to just be a well-rounded person, there's a place for risk in my life, and it's not at my office. And so that's one way it's helped me. But another way is I just think travel in general, being uncomfortable in general, is a very good thing for business, for personal relationships. I think also, your profession, being a coach, that sometimes people feel uncomfortable to share, hey, this is the challenge I have, and can you help me with it? And I think travel can help to unlock that. Go travel somewhere, eat the food that's scary, and maybe it'll be a little easier for you to open up to a professional coach and actually do better, achieve your goal
Mm.
faster, get what you want sooner. Certainly climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I couldn't do it by myself. I had a team of people that were part of the experience, and yeah, it was wonderful. And it was also
Eh,
a good lesson.
Yeah, I tell you, I think, the discipline, you had to do some training, you had to be disciplined, you had to be smart about what you do. You got to make decisions. I would even, and I agree 100% with uncomfort, like perturbation. You got to be uncomfortable if you're going to grow. That's the only way you'll grow. And yeah, for me, like even surfing is a pretty good discipline because when you're out there on the waves, you've got to make decisions, be aware of your surroundings, and execute fairly quickly or you're going to get rolled. So it all translates into business in my opinion and in life, that challenge. So what's your next one? You got another one on the books?
Yeah, I'm going to take one of my daughters to go whitewater rafting on the Colorado River. I'm really looking forward to it. And then the next one after that, you kind of have to plan these things in advance because sometimes there's a lot to be ready for. But my next one after that is a bay in Vietnam that is considered one of the world's, kind of like UNESCO heritage, beautiful wonders of the world kind of a thing. And I've never been there. My father fought in the Vietnam War, and I'd like to just go over there and just see a little bit and, get to take some pictures, that kind of thing.
That's very cool. Another one, another good one, since we're on the subject, it has nothing to do with business, but I love this. I love the conversation because I love to travel and we've got a trip planned to Europe this summer. I did a dive. I did few dives with my daughter. And that's another one where you got to be disciplined. You got to trust your gear. You got to trust your partner, and you got to breathe slowly. You can't use up all your air. So follow the protocols, follow the procedures, breathe. I think it all translates really well into business.
You had a dive that, you really are happy you did. That's, oh man, that was a classic, iconic moment for me as a diver.
So, I mean, I haven't done a whole bunch, but we were down in the Keys and we really, it
Oh
was
yeah.
very fun to sit down there. And we had some guys go with us that brought these spears because there's these invasive lionfish there.
Oh,
So
wow.
the guys were spearing the lionfish, and then we cut one in half and fed it to an eel, and then we cut another one in half, and then we had to toss it out there, and then this giant Goliath grouper ate it. He was about
Oh
300
wow.
pounds.
What an
And then we went, yeah, and then we went back, and that night I went to a restaurant in the Keys and had lionfish for dinner too. So we did the whole lionfish experience, the whole thing. But
very cool. I
that was very,
is it right to say that a lionfish is poisonous?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. You got to eat the inside, not the outside.
Wow. Incredible. Good on you.
That's fun. Yeah, very fun. And also good. It's good because they're getting those it's invasive species, and then ideally the eels will actually learn how to eat. They can eat them, and it's not going to hurt them. They look scary. The look is more scary than the bark is worse than the bite. I think on those things.
Okay.
So really great. Okay, anything else from you as far as I would love to hear from you, Chris? Like anything else you've learned or anything you would have done differently as you built your firm?
This might sound a little bit like on the nose, but I deeply believe that I could have done so much more if I had gotten tight with a coach from the start. I have come to see that there's a reason. Every Olympic athlete has a coach. There's a reason.
Mhm.
The way that we're built as humans is that we're not as capable of assessing our own strengths and weaknesses. And when there's somebody outside of us that can watch us and talk to us and examine what we're thinking and what we're doing, it is better. And so I would have done that a lot faster, a lot sooner. And as it is, I have two different coaches. I really appreciate the two different views, and I can't stress to people listening now that if this is something you're considering doing or you're thinking that there's a goal that I'm not sure, maybe a coach, no, definitely
Mm.
get that third party to talk to you and pay them so that you actually listen to what they have to say. That's my opinion.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I'll pay your 20 bucks afterwards. No, I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. It's so cool. I thank you for saying that. I'm glad you've had great experiences because the fact of the matter is you're right. It's just like an athlete or it's just like a football game. If you're up in the press box, you can see the plays developing in a lot different way than if you're on the field in the middle of of the action. It just perspective alone is worth so much. And then that accountability. And you're right. If you're like me, if I'm paying for something, I want to get my value out of it. So then chances are higher that you're actually going to do the things, right? That's awesome. Okay. If I was looking for a financial advisor, what would be the top one or two or three things I should look for?
I think that the first thing you want to do is you want to look for a fiduciary. The second thing you want to do is look for a certified financial planner. That's our, top of the top tier board that makes sure that they're doing what they're supposed to
Mhm.
do. And then the third thing would be somebody that you just enjoy talking to. Somebody that when you call them up, you feel like they're making you happy, that you don't feel talked down to, you don't feel like you're being disrespected or ignored. It's just, it's a pleasurable experience. And those three things, if they're all aligned, I bet it's going to work out great.
I love it. One of the things we do with when we interview clients too is like, first of all, the first thing I was like, okay, do we like each other? Because if we don't like each other, it's just not going to work. Just shut it down right now. And that's okay. Like you're not going to get along with everybody. So finding that fit and finding that real trust, I think is super important.
I agree.
Okay. So three quick questions. Here we go. These are super important too. So speed round. Here we go. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be?
Octopus.
Oh, octopus. I haven't heard that before. Tell me. I think I know why, but I want to hear.
You know what? When I was in high school, I did one of these tourist trips to the Everglades, and there were some Seminole Indians there, and they said to me that my spirit animal was octopus, and I where that came from, but it stuck with me, and I mean, I love it. I like the idea that there's 8 hands, you can do a lot of things at once. They're super smart. They're very smart creatures,
Yes.
and so yeah, there's your goofy answer. Thanks.
I love it. Octopus is smart. They are brilliant. I was at the Monterey Bay Aquarium and they were having somebody was stealing some of the fish out of one of the tanks, and
Yeah,
so they couldn't figure it out. And it was the octopus getting out of his own tank, going getting the fish and getting back in his tank. So that's a good
I know that story. It's crazy.
it's amazing. It's just so silly. Just crazy. Okay, next question. What do you want to be remembered for?
I don't think I care that much about that. But because I mean, if you change the timeline from okay, 10 years after I'm gone or 100 years after, at some point, I mean, I'm just gone. It all goes to dust at some point. So yeah, I don't know that I. Another word is legacy, right? Hey, what do you want
Yeah.
your legacy to be? And man, I think I'd rather just focus on am I making today better than yesterday and not worry about all that other stuff.
Continuous improvement. I like it. And then last question. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't want to grow up.
Perfect answer.
I guess not avoid the question. I would like to still be married. I've been married for 25, 26 years, and I'd like to still be married. I'd like to still enjoy my children and maybe their children. I'd like for that to, when I grow up, I'd like to, like all of that to just be solid, in place, full of togetherness. That would be wonderful.
That's awesome. Great answer, Chris. So, Manske Wealth Management, Chris, thank you so much for your time. And thanks for being, I'm going to call you, thanks for being disruptor. I like people that talk truth.
I appreciate you making this available to me.
All right. Cheers. Chris Manske, straight talk. I never thought about the 1% and how you should invest it and get it and then pay the guy on the back end. That's pretty amazing. Um, yeah, great guy. I love adventure. I love travel. I like that. We can take our money and invest it in things like fun and experiences, and those experiences just make us better at business. So it's a great investment as well, and make some great memories. Great guy.
Liked what you heard? Let's make it real. Schedule your free coaching session today at sugarland.actioncoach.com.